Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Education, Entrepreneurship and Employability, Aligning Universities to National Visions. This is an executive forum hosted by Times Higher Education in partnership with Coursera. My name is Alistair Lawrence. I'm the Special Projects Editor at THE, and I'll be chairing today's opening panel, which is titled Engaging with National Programmes, What Further Measures Are Needed to Optimise Teaching and Learning? I'm joined today by a panel of leaders from academia and industry who are Mongi Besbes, Vice Chancellor at the University of Carthage, Awativi Haya, who's President at Hassan II University of Casablanca, and Anthony Tattersall, who's Vice President of Enterprise for EMEA at Coursera. I'd like to dive right in if we can and ask the panel, how are national programs in the MENA region already influencing the teaching and learning there? Mongi, do you have any insights about what national programs are affecting the way you shape teaching and learning at your institution? You're on mute, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have more than 30 years in university, and I am convinced that the situation is as follows now. The inverse correlation between education and employment in the Mediterranean countries of the region is of concern. Unemployment rates tend to increase with the level of education, especially for women, and are higher among female university graduates. The growing number of educated unemployed suggests weak links between education and the training system and the labor market. The expansion of higher education does not ensure better prospects in the labor market, and in some cases encourages young people with training and not finding suitable unemployment in their native country to immigrate. National education system fail to equip students with the skills demanded by labor markets. The skill mismatch and the result of failure of education system to promote employability, and a direct failure of education system and a direct consequence of the poor quality of basic education and the lack of opportunities for education and training. High quality technical and professional training entrepreneur in Algeria, Egypt, Tunisia, Jordan, Lebanon, and Morocco regularly see the lack of appropriate skills in the workforce as a major obstacle to business development, preventing job creation. For example, there is an unmet demand for life skills such as teamwork, communication, social skills, adaptability, languages, analysis and synthesis, critical thinking, and work, the discipline and the skills and information and communication technique. It is also clear that the development of work search method must be promoted. The limited relevance of educational programs are as well as the lack of interest of companies themselves and developing the skills of young people further sheds light on what has already been said. Indeed, two factors need to be better reflected in the programs of education and training system. First, the evolution of labor market, and secondly, the evolution of skills required by the labor market work, with life skills becoming increasingly important for young people to access and keep employment. Another aggravating fact for the skills mismatch is that companies place a low priority on skills over other business constraint for development and investment. Only 25% of companies on the MENA region offer training compared to 57% in East Asia and 53% in Latin America. This is my constat about the mismatch between programs and the educational system.
Okay, thank you very much, Moji. To that point, Alice, I was wondering if you could tell us about the national education programs and how they're affecting your institution. Are they have they identified the skills mismatch that Monji was talking about? Are they addressing what needs to be done in order to create more employable graduates, more skilled graduates?
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank you and thank Coursera for organizing this very important panel. I'm happy to join and share this panel with my colleagues from the MENA region. So regarding your question, yes, in Morocco, there is in average, each 10-15 years, there is a revision of the education system and evaluation and revision of the education system. And for instance, 3 years ago, it was a big evaluation that was run out in all the universities in Morocco, and large number of meetings in different universities, etc., to evaluate the existing system, and the result was showing that there is a mismatch between the curricula, the skills that are currently proposed, and the labor market mainly. Also, some of the important results from this evaluation have shown that there is a large rate of dropouts, which means that students enter the university, but they get out from the university after 1 or 2 years without obtaining a diploma, without being graduated. This was a big outcome, I would say, from this analysis. It's on average about 30% from the higher education system that of students leave the university without being graduated. So this is a kind of, it's disappointing because we invest in the education, higher education, but these students cannot be graduated. The second important conclusion was that even those that can obtain their diploma, they are facing difficulties in entering the labor market. And this is a big problem. And mainly, it was identified that the main reason is the lack of soft skills and international languages in general, which are French, English, etc. So this is why the government and also the ministry, they have developed a new vision, which is called the Vision 2015-2030 for a school and university of equity, excellence, and quality. And this law, and then there was a law, which is the implementation of this la vision stratégique, the strategic vision, which was adopted. The law was adopted in 2019. And one of the mechanisms, I would say, of the implementation of this law, which is the new law, is called 51.17. 51.17. For the first time, this law proposed an integrated vision from elementary school, high school to university school. Before, we had different laws, one for elementary, one for high school, etc., and no connection between them. But we have realized, which is obvious somehow, but well, the results were there. We have realized that, of course, to develop, to have a good quality higher education, we have to start early. We have to start early at elementary, high school, etc. And so this is the first time we have this global integrated vision. And also the first time we had an important component of this law, which is dedicated to R&D, research development and valorization of the research. So to make it quick, one of the important mechanisms that come out from this for the implementation of this law is the bachelor, is the system of bachelor. The system, why system of bachelor? Because after a benchmarking that was made across the world, we have found that in the bachelor, there is this foundation year where students, after they leave the high school and they enter the university, there is this foundation year where they can acquire, skills in soft skills, languages, etc., so that they can be able to follow their study in good way in the university. I can elaborate more later if you want. But
okay. That's perfect. No, thank you very much. That highlights a lot of interesting areas, and I'd like to put Anthony on the spot if I can, just to ask a little bit about how Coursera have been working with universities throughout the MENA region, specifically to address some of the challenges that both Monji and Awatif mentioned, which are, the skills mismatch and the skills shortage, the problems of dropout rates, perhaps meaning that people aren't undertaking modular education, so they are leaving a higher education institution without any qualifications in some cases, and the difficulties that they're experiencing in the labour market. I mean, for the region, it sounds like soft skills are a challenge, like they are globally, but also around speaking international languages and generally doing more to reach down into the pipeline of education and do more to equip the students with the skills they need by the time they reach a higher education institute. That's a question in about 5 parts, I'm aware. So if we can break it down just a little bit. The teaching of skills online is something that Coursera enables globally. I mean, how have you seen the demand for that increase, particularly with everything being so fragmented over the past year and a half or so?
So I think the demand has increased significantly over the last couple of years. It's probably not a surprise that that's happened as a result of the pandemic. We saw globally something like 90% of the world's campuses had to go into a period of operating online and being closed. We've seen the same thing happen with businesses, with individuals, where people had to work online from home, from a remote location. And so we've seen a couple of major shifts in the way that people and businesses and stakeholders are operating. The impact of the pandemic has really transformed people's expectations and how they engage with almost all forms of life, of which education and skills development is, of course, one. And we've seen a lot of organizations have no choice but to switch to online or hybrid ways of engaging. And so that's become much more of a natural expectation for individuals. At least an option will be available to them. The second thing we've seen is that the impact of the pandemic has driven a real acceleration of digital transformation across all industry sectors, all types of forms of engagement. Partly because it's had no choice. We've all had to engage with digital means because physical in-person opportunities haven't been necessarily available. But there's also a recognition that's just a natural evolution that was happening pre-pandemic, and it's just been accelerated because of the particular circumstances that we're in. And so we see some fairly significant outcomes as a result of that. There's been a lot of discussion from my colleagues, my panelists, around the challenges of linking university education to employment outcomes, and that we are seeing a big focus on from universities across the globe. I think from a student perspective, as a student wanting to go into university and putting 3 or 4 years of your life into the educational system, you of course want to get an outcome from that, an outcome that you value. And then for most people, the perception is that by going through a university program, you'll increase your career opportunity, you'll have more options to go into a career of choice, and overall it'll give you better earning capability, better competitiveness on the global stage. And so you have to really believe that's going to be the case as a student. A big part of that, of course, is that when you come out of the university, is that you're going to be attractive to employers. And we have seen that a lot of graduate employment has been struggling because there is this perceived skills gap when you come out of the university being ready for the world of work. And so while a lot of universities are measuring outcomes in the terms of a pure percentage of people who go into employment, I think for students is also a career of choice, not just any form of employment that justifies that investment of time and cost, but also gives them the career opportunities to move forward with. On the business side, in many of these roles that we see, there's a significant gap still between what is actually needed to be effective in those entry-level or graduate-level roles and what they're actually seeing as a skill sets that a students or individual bringing into the company. And in many cases, they don't have the time or the capacity to build those skill sets internally, because it can be, in some cases, 100, 200 days worth of educational time is needed to address that gap. Many of the universities we work with, including organizations like the University of Carthage and Hassan too, have been very pioneering and innovative in their approaches to this. And they're looking to ensure that students are coming out with the skill sets that will really help them thrive in the job market with that really strong focus on employability outcomes. And that is both a combination of the kind of soft skills or the human or power skills, depending on what people call them, which will help you work with cross-functional teams, with emotional intelligence, with remote and diverse operations, and on working on a global stage across multiple cultures. And of course, the more sort of technical and job-relevant skills, often around digital literacy, digital transformation skills, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, etc., that are becoming more and more relevant in almost every role and a lot of the actual growth roles we're seeing in the future. So we really work with universities, really help understand what we see from our business customers, the kind of skill sets that they are looking to build within their own employee base, the curriculums that universities have themselves, and how we can help bridge the gap based on the skill requirements of a particular region to help ensure that we improve the best possible employability outcomes for students. The second part of what we try and do within that, of course, is actually helping students engage with educational programs. So many students have found themselves in a position where they can't necessarily attend a campus in person full time and want to have a more flexible way to engage with learning, possibly because they're having to take on some form of work to help part fund education or just to manage their own cost structures, possibly because of travel restrictions, family circumstances, looking after other people, and so on. And so having the ability to engage with some elements of the program in a blended or hybrid way, where you can access content online asynchronously in a time of your own choosing, gives you more flexibility. And we're seeing organizations around the world offering those capability sets out to students. And so if as an institution, you don't offer more flexibility to the marketplace, then you're going to be effectively open to global competition. Because if you can go and engage educationally for the most part through an online mechanism, you can really learn anywhere in the world, you can teach anywhere in the world. So it creates both opportunities and challenges for organizations, and we try and help individual institutions navigate those challenges and ensure that they can compete both on the global stage, on their local marketplaces, and drive better outcomes for their students. All of which has a positive and transformational benefit on the economy overall of the country that those institutions are represented in, because through improvement in skills, it drives economic improvements, it drives global prosperity, it drives better equity and opportunity for individuals around the world.
So Anthony, to that point, I wondered for the national programs that we see so much of across the MENA region, and 2030 is often held up as a benchmark year for many of them. Do you think that these programs are overall providing some more scaffolding for universities that are providing a guide? And to the point about, I'll just say the point about people leaving universities without any qualifications if they leave after a year or so, do you think that there's some space for more modular education that can still meet the demands of what the national programs are asking of their higher education institutions?
Yes, I do. And I think that one of the really, exciting things we do see within the sort of MENA region is that there is a much closer collaboration in many cases with national opportunities, national frameworks and programs, individual institutions, and in some cases businesses as well. There's certainly more of an integrated approach in many ways to how those education programs can be delivered. And it is really critical that there's a recognition that there isn't a single one-size approach. University education is a fantastic opportunity. It's not going to be available to all individuals, to all citizens, in some cases because they just don't have the capability to actually afford it or to attend it, or the time capacity to do so. In some cases, there's a capacity limit within countries about how many places are available, and there's far too much demand for the space it is, and therefore they just don't have the opportunity. Some people just don't learn that most effectively in those large long-term engagements, and having something that's more modularized or specific or job relevant can be really helpful. So I don't think we're ever going to see a situation where universities are replaced by alternative forms of education. I think universities will continue to evolve. And actually, I think universities and institutions have a great opportunity to support not just graduates, graduate employment outcomes and students and younger people, but also individuals at any moments of career transition, as we expect that most people going through their working life today will have multiple periods of having to reinvent themselves as the world around them changes. But from a government perspective and a sort of framework perspective, it's also equally important, because you are then really looking at it from the overall economic output of the country or the region as a whole. And we see that across the world, there is a really significant shift in the type of roles that are coming forward in companies. So there's some significant disruption. We see there's something like about 85 million jobs are expected to be displaced by 2025, according to the World Economic Forum. Of the jobs that are in place today, about 40% of those core skills are changing. We're seeing big shifts in the way people are working remotely. We're seeing a lot of focus on driving digital engagement. And that means that for a lot of people, the jobs that are existing today won't be around, at least in full, in 5 years. They'll be either automated out, or there'll be a lot less requirement for them. But there's also a raft of whole new jobs coming on to the marketplace. And those new jobs, in many cases, can be worked by people remotely from anywhere in the world. So from a regional perspective, to avoid a situation where there's large parts of the population have a skill set that's no longer needed by businesses and are effectively unemployable, that's a huge potential burden and cost to the government to support those individuals. By actually investing in skills development and creating opportunities for people and putting people into work, not only do you reduce the kind of the burden of costs and support, but you actually drive up from a country level perspective, the country's capability to be innovative, to attract inward investment, to drive talent, to drive improved outcomes, and to drive better wealth for the region is also a great leveler from an equity perspective, because by offering different types of programs which can engage with different audiences, you give lots of people opportunities to engage with something that will work for them and their particular financial circumstances. So where these national programs I think are most effective is where they partner with the educational institutions whose core mission is to actually build skills within people, partner with the businesses who actually be able to deploy those skills in productive working environments, and working with third-party organizations that will help them bring the best in class and guidance into those programs to make them as effective as possible. And we see a lot of drive for that to happen within the MENA region. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, if executed well, will really be a very powerful and strong transformational force for the region, leading to improved outcomes. But it is that piece about executing it well. It's about doing the right skills at the right time with the right partnerships to lead to those better outcomes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anthony. Wanji, I'd like to ask you about the lifelong learning and how it is being approached at your institution and in your nation. And do you think that is a good opportunity to address the skills shortage and the skills mismatch that you were talking about earlier? Is it happening already?
In the case of lifelong learning, you know that the world is now constantly changing. Numerous studies already show that 65% of today's students will be in a job that haven't even been created yet. This number alone should show us that our education is more than we learn in school, not even the training we can take as adults as part of our work. Today, it is essential to create our own lifelong learning education strategy. And the University of Carthage, we are convinced that all the professions have evolved or even disappeared completely other professions have developed over other last decade, like big data architect, influencer, application developer. We are even already seeing robot breeders who integrate data into brain artificial to help employees in certain departments. This form of learning thus stems from a state of mind that is more or less developed in each individual, but which real lifelong learners manage to cultivate in more productive way. A curious mind always seeks to know more. He longs for new challenges, ideas, and experiences, and is not satisfied with the status quo. More than anything, the lifelong learner seeks above all to become a better version of himself. In general, recruiters are increasingly interested in candidates who demonstrate humility and a strong intellectual curiosity, because curiosity is a powerful engine of learning. This ability to be proactively interested in new subject, new technology, allow us not only to develop transversal knowledge, but also to not depend on anyone to imagine solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. To that point about people being proactive and being invested in what they're learning about, Latif, I'd like to ask you about the point you made before for the 2030 vision, investing in R&D. I mean, is this done in response to the point that Anthony was making earlier about the sheer amount of change that there is in the job market and how different jobs will come into effect? Is there now a requirement that you diversify what you teach people in order to help them anticipate needing to change careers, needing to learn different skills, needing to acquire new knowledge?
Yes, it's a part for that, how we can create job through R&D, because you know the students that PhD students are working in innovative solutions, and they develop a new idea, and unfortunately, I would say 99% of these ideas stay in papers after the thesis defense, and this is pity, because we have seen during the pandemic period, and when the borders were closed and the country was closed, we have realized that we need local innovation. We need to capitalize on this local innovation and promote it, and make some kind of science and technology transfer to the society. And this is important, and this is was a part of a big component, as I said, in the 2030 vision. It was at that time mainly to help students to enter the job market very easily. You know, we have realized during the last more than 20 years that the big companies that hire thousands of employees this time is finished. We are now we need now to promote more individual entrepreneurship and how people can create their own job. And a part of our students, as I said, they are PhD students. So at least these students can develop their idea, and we can accompany them to create startups, and sometimes not necessarily, this is for PhD students, but also for the others. For example, in University Hassan II of Casablanca, we have more than 125,000 students. So a large number of students. So we cannot secure that all the students after getting graduated will be hired by companies. You know, now the crisis is here and a lot of problems. So this is why we started, and at our university we have developed a strategy, which is the 5 I strategy: I governance for digitalization, innovation, internationalization, insertion through entrepreneurship and inclusion. So this 5 I strategy is based on developing entrepreneurship curricula for students from the beginning when they enter the university. And this strategy is, by the way, inspired from the 2030 vision. So the students, when they enter the university, they register in an entrepreneurship program, and they are accompanied by you know, video online courses, for example, from Coursera, from other platforms, and we accompany them to develop innovative idea and how to transform this idea to projects. So after selection, each year something like 10,000 students register, and at the end we have about 1,000 students that have good projects that can be promoted, and we developed an incubator to accompany some 100 of them. But the idea is not to push all of them to create startup, but to get these entrepreneurship exercise, which is very important. Very important. Since this courses of entrepreneurship can help students to learn skills and competencies like having initiative, working with others, created some well, I said initiatives, etc. So this is taking risk. This is important to be able to take risk for some new initiatives. So this was part of it's in line with what you said. Another
strategy, yes, I understand. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
If I can just
sure, please
finish my idea. The second important thing is that the fact that we use these platforms of Coursera and online platforms. This can help us to accompany large number of students, which is not possible without platforms. And we have realized also that these skills are very important also to create an economic impact. It was said by Mr. Tattersall, is that these students, they will be hired by companies, and they will be able to adapt, and to, if taking into account the new jobs that will be created, they can be easily adaptive to these new jobs, and they can help their companies to be global, to be running, I would say, in the global competition. This is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, that gives us a really nice summary. I mean, it's interesting to hear how it's helping you to scale and educate more people, but it's also driving local engagement and really getting the most out of the people in the physical location of where you are. I'm afraid we've run out of time for our panel this morning. That's all we have, but the good news is we do have several more sessions coming up. There are workshops about exactly what we've been talking about today. So embracing entrepreneurship, retaining top talent in the region, and also we'll end on another short panel discussion that is about how to embed and improve skills education and employability in a bit more detail. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of the day, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining me for our opening session. Mongdi, Awatif, Anthony, it's been a pleasure, and thank you to everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the event. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the invitation. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.